Do not ignore this. It's me speaking to you, and before you scroll, before you decide this is just another message, I need you to understand something that might shake you a little. This is not random, you were meant to hear this at this exact moment, and if you feel even the slightest pull to keep listening, that's your sign that something deeper is happening right now, something you cannot see but you can definitely feel, and I know a part of you is already questioning why this feels so personal, why it feels like it's speaking directly to you, and that's because it is. Because you have been trying to ignore certain truths lately, you've been distracting yourself, keeping busy, avoiding that quiet voice inside you that keeps whispering that something is not right, something needs to change, something is coming, and no matter how much you try to push it away, it keeps coming back stronger, louder, clearer, and right now, you don't have the option to ignore it anymore, because this moment, this exact moment, was aligned for you to finally pay attention, to finally stop and listen, not to the noise around you, not to what people are saying, but to what you feel deep inside, because that feeling, that uncomfortable awareness, that sudden realization that something is shifting in your life, that is not fear, that is clarity trying to break through, and yes, it feels uncomfortable because you are stepping out of an old version of yourself, a version that tolerated things you should have walked away from, a version that stayed silent when you should have spoken, a version that kept holding on to people and situations that were slowly draining you, and now everything is changing, even if you cannot fully see it yet, even if it feels confusing, even if it feels like things are falling apart, they are not falling apart, they are being rearranged, and I know you've heard that before, but this time it's different, because this time you can feel it, you can sense that something is ending, something is shifting, something is quietly being removed from your life, and it's not happening to hurt you. It's happening to protect you, to prepare you, to align you with something better, something that actually matches who you are becoming, and I know you've been tired, mentally exhausted from overthinking, replaying moments, wondering what went wrong, questioning your worth, but let me tell you something clearly, you were never the problem in the way you think you were, you simply gave your energy in places where it was not valued the way it should have been. You saw potential in people who showed you patterns, and now you are finally starting to see the difference. You are starting to understand that not everything you feel is meant to be held on to, not everything that once felt right is meant to stay, and that realization is powerful, even if it hurts a little, even if it feels like you are losing something, because what you are actually doing is making space for something real, something aligned, something that does not require you to question your place in it, and yes, the process feels lonely sometimes, it feels uncertain, it feels like you are in between something you cannot go back to and something you cannot fully see yet, but that in-between space is where transformation happens, that is where you are being reshaped, where your mindset is shifting, where your awareness is growing, and even though it feels slow, even though it feels like nothing is happening, a lot is happening beneath the surface, things are being set in motion that you cannot yet understand, conversations that haven't happened yet, opportunities that are forming, paths that are opening quietly, and all of it is connected to the version of you that is starting to wake up, the version of you that no longer ignores red flags, that no longer chases confusion, that no longer settles for less than what feels right deep down, and this is where your power is returning. Not in a loud dramatic way, but in a quiet, steady realization that you don't need to force anything anymore, that what is meant for you will not require you to lose yourself to keep it, and as you start to move with that understanding, everything begins to shift, your decisions change, your energy changes, the way people respond to you changes, and slowly, things start aligning in a way that feels natural instead of forced. And you might not see it immediately, but you will feel it, that sense of peace replacing confusion, that sense of certainty replacing doubt, that feeling of knowing without needing constant reassurance, and it all starts with this moment, this decision to not ignore what you feel right now, to not brush this off as just another message, because it is more than that, it is a reminder that you are not lost, you are not behind, you are not forgotten. You are exactly where you need to be to understand what you were meant to understand, and even though it hasn't been easy, even though there were moments you felt like giving up, you didn't, you kept going, and that matters more than you realize, because that resilience, that quiet strength inside you, is what is guiding you into what is next, and what is next is not meant to break you. It is meant to elevate you, to show you a version of life where you are not constantly questioning everything, where you are not shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant for you, but instead stepping fully into who you are, attracting what aligns with you instead of chasing what confuses you, and yes, it will require you to trust, to let go, to move differently than before, but you are ready for that, even if a part of you feels unsure, because growth always feels unfamiliar at first, but that does not mean it is wrong, it means you are stepping into something new. Something that will eventually feel more like you than anything you've known before, so don't ignore this, don't scroll past it, take a moment, breathe, and really listen, because this might be the moment everything inside you starts to change. Do not relax yet. Because what you are about to understand now goes deeper than anything you've realized so far, and if you are still here, still listening, then it means something inside you has already started to wake up, even if you cannot fully explain it, even if it feels strange or unfamiliar. Because this is the part where things begin to make sense in a way that might be uncomfortable but necessary, because the truth is, you have been shown signs for a long time, subtle hints, repeated patterns. Situations that felt different but somehow ended the same way, people who entered your life with promise but left you with questions, and none of that was accidental, none of that was just bad luck. It was all part of something trying to teach you, to open your eyes to what you kept overlooking, because you were seeing things through hope instead of reality, you were holding on to what something could be instead of what it actually was, and that is why it kept hurting, that is why it kept draining you, not because you are weak, but because you were giving your energy without protecting it. And now that is changing, whether you are fully ready for it or not, because once you start seeing clearly, you cannot go back to pretending you don't see it. Once you recognize a pattern, it becomes impossible to ignore it without feeling it inside you, and that discomfort you feel lately, that inner tension, that quiet unease, is not something going wrong. It is something finally going right, it is awareness breaking through illusion, it is truth replacing denial, and I know that can feel overwhelming, because it forces you to confront things you once avoided, it forces you to accept that not everything was what you thought it was, and that realization can feel heavy, but it is also freeing. Because once you accept it, you stop blaming yourself for things that were never yours to carry, you stop questioning your worth based on how others treated you, and you begin to understand that some people were only meant to be lessons, not permanent parts of your life, and that shift, that understanding, is where your power starts to return in a way you have never felt before, because now you are no longer moving blindly, you are no longer reacting from emotion alone, you are starting to respond with awareness, with clarity, with a deeper understanding of what you deserve, and what you no longer accept, and that changes everything, even if nothing around you has visibly changed yet, because the real transformation always begins within you before it shows up in your external world, and right now, your internal world is shifting rapidly, your thoughts are changing, your tolerance is changing, the things you once accepted easily are now starting to feel uncomfortable. And that is a clear sign that you are outgrowing a version of your life that no longer aligns with who you are becoming. And yes, that process can feel lonely at times, because not everyone will understand this shift, not everyone will grow with you, and some people may even try to pull you back into old patterns because that is where they are comfortable, but you cannot shrink yourself just to maintain connections that were built on an older version of you. You cannot ignore your growth just to keep things the same, because the moment you do that, you betray yourself, and deep down, you already know that you cannot go back to who you were, not after everything you've seen, not after everything you've felt, and that is why this moment is so important, because this is where you decide whether you continue evolving or fall back into what is familiar but limiting, and I need you to understand this clearly. What is familiar is not always what is right for you, and what feels uncertain is not always wrong. Sometimes uncertainty is simply the beginning of something new, something better, something that requires you to trust before you fully see the outcome, and that is where you are right now, standing at the edge of change, feeling both the pull of the past and the call of the future, and the choice you make here will define what comes next. Not in a dramatic overnight way, but in small, consistent decisions, the way you choose to respond, the boundaries you choose to set, the things you choose to walk away from even when it's hard, and the things you choose to pursue, even when you are not completely sure, because growth is not about having all the answers. It is about trusting yourself enough to move forward without them, and you are learning that now, step by step, moment by moment, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it feels slow, progress is happening, and soon, you will start to notice it more clearly, in the way you think, in the way you react, in the way you no longer tolerate what once drained you, and that is when everything begins to shift externally as well, because your energy will no longer match what is misaligned, and naturally, those things will start to fall away, not because you forced it, but because you outgrew it, and that is the most powerful kind of change, the kind that happens naturally when you become more of who you truly are, and I know a part of you still feels uncertain, still wonders if you are doing the right thing, still questions if this path will lead to something better. But let me remind you of something important. Every time you listened to that inner voice, every time you trusted your instinct, even when it didn't make sense at the time, it eventually proved to be right, and this moment is no different. This is another one of those moments where you are being guided, not with loud instructions, not with clear answers, but with a feeling, a knowing, a quiet push in a direction that feels right even if you cannot explain why. And that is what you need to follow, not fear, not doubt, not the opinions of people who do not see what you see, but that inner clarity that has been growing stronger within you, because the more you trust it, the more it will guide you to where you are meant to be, and the more you ignore it, the more confused you will feel, and you have already experienced both sides of that, so now the choice is yours, and I believe you already know what you need to do, even if you haven't fully admitted it to yourself yet. And that is okay, because realization takes time, acceptance takes time, but once it clicks, once you truly understand, everything begins to align in a way that feels almost effortless, and you will look back at this phase, this confusing, uncertain, uncomfortable phase, and realize that it was not a setback, it was a turning point, the moment where you stopped ignoring and started seeing, the moment where you stopped doubting and started trusting. And that is where your life truly begins to change. Do not lose focus now. Because this is where everything you've been feeling starts connecting in a way that you can no longer ignore, and if you've made it this far, then you are not here by accident, you are here because something inside you is ready to fully understand what has been happening in your life, not just on the surface, but at a deeper level that most people never reach, because most people stay distracted, they keep scrolling, they keep avoiding, they keep running from that quiet truth inside them, but you didn't, you stayed, and that already sets you apart, because now you are about to realize something that will change the way you see everything, the way you see people, the way you see situations, and most importantly, the way you see yourself, because the truth is, you were never meant to stay the same, you were never meant to remain in that cycle of confusion, overthinking, and emotional exhaustion. That phase was only meant to wake you up, not to keep you stuck, and now that you are waking up, things around you may start to feel different, even if nothing has physically changed yet, because your perception is changing, your awareness is expanding, and when that happens, you begin to notice things you once ignored, you begin to see intentions more clearly, you begin to feel energies without needing words to explain them, and that can feel overwhelming at first, because it makes everything more real. It removes the illusions that once made things easier to accept, but it also gives you something far more powerful, clarity, and clarity is something that cannot be taken from you once you truly have it, because once you see the truth, you cannot unsee it, once you understand a pattern, you cannot pretend it doesn't exist, and that is exactly where you are now. You are in a space where your eyes are opening, where your mind is connecting dots that didn't make sense before, where your heart is starting to align with what is real instead of what it hoped for, and yes, that shift can feel uncomfortable. Because it forces you to let go of certain beliefs, certain attachments, certain expectations that you once held on to tightly. But those things were never meant to define your path, they were only part of your journey, and now your journey is changing direction, not randomly, not without purpose, but in a way that is guiding you towards something more aligned, something more real, something that does not require you to question your worth or your place in it, and I know there were times you felt like you were being left behind, like things were not working out for you the way they were for others, like you were putting in effort but not seeing results, but what you didn't realize is that you were being prepared, not delayed, you were being shaped, not denied, because what is meant for you requires a version of you that is stronger, wiser, more aware, and that is exactly who you are becoming right now. Even if you don't fully see it yet, even if you still have moments of doubt. Moments where you question everything, that is part of the process, that is part of the transition from who you were to who you are becoming, and transitions are never comfortable, they are never easy, they require you to step into the unknown, to release what feels familiar, to trust what you cannot fully see yet, and that is not something everyone is willing to do, but you are doing it, even if it doesn't feel like it. Even if it feels messy, even if it feels uncertain, progress is happening. Growth is happening, transformation is happening, and soon, very soon, you will start to notice it in ways that cannot be ignored. You will start to see changes in how people treat you, in how opportunities show up, in how situations unfold in your favor without you forcing them, and that is when you will realize that everything you went through was not in vain. It was building you, preparing you, aligning you. And the most important part of all this is that you are starting to trust yourself. Again, maybe slowly, maybe quietly, but it is happening. You are starting to rely less on external validation and more on your inner knowing. You are starting to make decisions based on what feels right instead of what looks right, and that is a powerful shift, because once you trust yourself, you become unstoppable in a way that is calm, grounded, and certain, not rushed, not desperate, not confused. And that is the energy you are stepping into, an energy that does not chase, an energy that attracts, an energy that does not beg for attention, but naturally receives it, because it is aligned, and alignment changes everything. It changes what you tolerate, what you accept, what you allow into your life, and as that continues to shift, your reality will begin to reflect it more and more, and you will find yourself in situations that feel right without you having to question them. You will connect with people who understand you without you having to explain yourself. You will experience moments of peace that once felt impossible, and all of that starts from within, from this shift that is happening inside you right now. And I know there is still a part of you that feels uncertain, that wonders if this is real, if this is just another phase. But let me tell you this, you would not be here, you would not be feeling this, you would not be connecting with this message the way you are if it wasn't real, if it wasn't meant for you to hear. Because not everyone will understand this, not everyone will feel this, but you do, and that is because you are ready, ready to move forward, ready to step into something new, ready to leave behind what no longer serves you even if it's difficult, and that readiness is everything, because once you are truly ready, nothing can hold you back, not fear, not doubt, not the past, because you have already outgrown it. You have already moved beyond it in ways you are only just beginning to understand, and from this point forward, things will start to align in ways that confirm everything you are starting to feel now, not all at once, but gradually, naturally, in a way that feels right, and when it happens, you will remember this moment, this exact moment where something inside you clicked, where something inside you shifted, where you stopped ignoring and started listening, and that is the moment your life began to change in a way you will never go back from. Do not stop now. Because this is where the final shift begins, the part where everything you've been sensing, feeling, and questioning finally converges into clarity, and if you have stayed this far, it means your inner self is ready to fully awaken to the truth that has been quietly waiting for you, the truth that you cannot ignore any longer, because ignoring it only delays the life that is ready to flow to you. And this is the moment where you realize that everything that happened before, every setback, every heartbreak, every moment of doubt, was not meant to break you, it was meant to prepare you, to teach you, to align you with what is truly meant for you, and now you are in the space where you can see it clearly, even if just a little, the pieces of your life coming together in ways that feel natural, effortless, and inevitable, and that realization is not just comforting, it is powerful, because it reminds you that you were never lost, you were never forgotten, you were always being guided. always being supported, even when it didn't feel like it, and as you start to fully embrace this, you begin to act differently, think differently, feel differently, because your energy starts to match the life that is waiting for you, and when that happens, the universe, your circumstances, and the people around you respond to that alignment in ways that feel almost magical, not because it is magic, but because you have finally synchronized with your own truth, and that is when everything changes, when clarity replaces confusion, certainty replaces doubt, peace replaces fear, and joy begins to replace struggle, and all of that starts because you chose to stop ignoring, because you chose to pause, to breathe, to listen, to trust what is being shown to you, and that choice alone is enough to create a ripple that touches every part of your life, because once you stop running from the truth, once you stop resisting what is already present, life begins to flow as it was always meant to, and you will start to notice doors opening where there were only walls, opportunities appearing where there were only obstacles, people showing up who actually match your energy instead of confusing it, and that is the reward for paying attention, for listening to the voice that others might have told you to ignore, for trusting yourself when no one else did, and as you step into this new phase, you will begin to understand that every moment of struggle, every moment of waiting, every moment of uncertainty was necessary, because it brought you here, to this point of awareness, this point of strength, this point of alignment, and from here, you can move forward with confidence, clarity, and courage, knowing that you are no longer being pulled by what is misaligned, you are no longer being held back by the past, and you are finally moving toward the life that matches your true self, the life that is not forced, the life that does not require compromise of your essence, the life that feels like home within your own soul, and as you continue on this path, the world around you will continue to reflect your internal transformation, showing you that the power to create, the power to manifest, the power to attract what is truly yours, was within you all along, waiting for the moment you chose to stop ignoring, the moment you chose to finally listen, the moment you chose yourself, fully and completely. And that is where true change begins, quietly, steadily, powerfully, and permanently, and from this point onward, nothing will ever be the same because you will never go back to ignoring what your heart, your soul, and your inner voice have been trying to tell you all along.